but there is always a circle of protection of some kind or the other for the magical operator. And that, as I say, that symbolizes, and that was probably not always stated, but I think in psychological terms it certainly symbolizes the circle of consciousness of the individual. And by the way, most ceremonial magic generally tends to take place in the dark. Oh, black magic. Well, why do you suppose that is? What happens when you close your eyes? What happens when you go to sleep? What do you do before you go to sleep? You turn the lights off in the room, don't you? Because it's not that easy to achieve an altered state of consciousness, especially by ceremonial means, when all the lights are on. Whether those lights are of the lights of heaven or whether they are the lights of the electricity. It's in the dark that one can visualize and see things more easily, because all the rest of the stuff is blotted out. Where do you suppose mysticism and the mystics received their name? The mystes, the ones who veiled their eyes from the external world, no doubt in order to acquire a closed-eyed imagery. And so there is usually dark, and often even the room in which the ceremonial magician, the ceremonial magical temple, will frequently be draped in dark colored cloth, black or dark blue or things of that sort. Dark robes are worn with a hood, all the kind of stuff that you will see in the Stephen King movies or things of that sort that talk about black magic. Well, the reason for all of that being is that one wants to create a neutral background for the magical imagination. Something is necessary, something of that sort needs to be done, so they are not distracted by all kinds of other things. That's the sense of sight, let us say. The other senses are also involved in a variety of ways, and then there are the various magical instrumentalities, let us say, the things that are needed for the magical operations. There is the circle, I already mentioned that. There is often a square that is organized in a particular way. In Solomonic magic, which is what I am primarily talking about now, there are various modifications of that. There is a triangle, just like over there. The triangle of manifestation. And the triangle is placed outside of the circle, and the magical operator faces the triangle. It is in the triangle, in some way or the other, that the visual apparition of who or what is invoked takes place. There are vessels, there are lamps, usually like votive lights, little lights, so that they will not cast too much of a light, and certainly the magical instruments, or the magical implements, which are the cup, the sword, and the pentacle and the wand. Of these, the wand is the most frequently used. A good magician's wand, on the basis of these Renaissance period methods, is usually divided into two sides. It's a long stick, let's say. In the middle of it is a knob, which is often painted red, or maybe some other color. And then there is a sort of yin-yang situation of a dark-colored part and a light-colored part. At the end of the wand, often there are pieces of metal. They sort of weight the situation. If you want to get very or I don't know, very sort of occultistic about it, and you might look at those pieces of metal as having some kind of magnetism or something of that sort. In any event, there is a light part, and when there is an invocational magical operation taking place, when you are calling for the supernal beings, angels and so forth, then the light part is up. When you are doing an evocational operation which addresses itself to creatures of the nether regions, again, these are not demons or devils, but they are all sorts of nature spirits, what are often called the Tartarian entities and so forth, then the dark one is up. But then there is the sword also for certain operations and so forth. Because these are the four instruments which I mentioned, the cup, the pentacle, the wand, and the sword, are the instruments of the four elements. That's why you find them in the four suits of the tarot cards, for instance. All right? All of these have to do with the sense of sight. Sometime in Solomonic magic, to make things a bit easier, I always felt that's a little bit cheating, but then, you know, sometimes a little cheating helps. Once into the triangle of manifestation, there is often placed a mirror. And the mirror is sometimes darkened so that it won't be terribly clear. Oh, smoke. Have you heard smoking mirrors? It's again a very universal thing. They did it among the Mesoamerican cultures. The Aztecs and the Mayas used mirrors, or sort of darkened with something like soap or whatever, the chalk, whatever the case may be. And then either the magus himself or a second official, who is often called the receiver, and it has to be a little bit specially talented, with two candlesticks or two candles, two lighted torches or candles in his hand, will go up fairly close to the mirror and gaze into the mirror. For that you need some light, but there shouldn't be any light outside. So all of these have to do with the sense of sight. The sense of hearing is involved by way of the usually very sonorous, very rhythmic, and often quite loud invocations or evocations which are recited by the magus. These are formulae. Different beings, different angels, different entities have their own particular formula. You never just make it up. Good magical ritual, I repeat, is never spontaneous. Oh, that's so contrary to New Age, you know, because you want to create your own reality. Well, you know what? The reality that you create ain't worth that much. There is a good psychological reason that any psychologist would recognize why a spontaneous ritual is apt to be inferior to a traditional ritual, and it's this: that you are not likely to really trust the efficacy of a spontaneous ritual, because there is something inside of you that tells you that you just made it up. That since you just made it up, it can't be worth all that much. Now you say, what guarantee do I have that the stuff in that magic book is any better? Well, no, you don't really have a guarantee, I agree. But if indeed that magic book, that grimoire, that ritual book, whatever you want to call it, has been used many times before, and if you have a certain amount of testimony that other people have had results by using it, that I think increases the likelihood that you might also have a reasonably good result. You know, if a lot of people manage to, I don't know, get by way of United Airways to Hawaii, then the chances are that if you board one of their planes that's supposed to go to Hawaii, you'll get there too. So these invocations are read, sometimes memorized, but the text is still there, by the magus, the chief operator, and they are recited in a certain ritual fashion, in a sonorous, poetic manner, and often over and over again, because the conjuration